Well, welcome to firstupthebike.com's Ironman 70.3 Auckland women's preview. With me is Aussie Pro Luke Bell. Luke, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. We talked on Monday about what a cracker men's field, but the women's field, geez, it's got some names there that really get you excited. Liz Blatchford, Mel Holtshield, Caroline Steffen, Meredith Kessler, Annabelle Luxford, just to name a few. Another big field.
Yeah, and you know, as I said the other day, it just goes to show that everyone's pretty conscious about chasing points now and making sure that whether it be a championship race, it's getting ahead of the game. So then when Kona, Vegas, all World Championship events roll around, they're on that start line.
Well, you think about for a girl like Mel Holtshield, who's already picked up the win at Ironman 70.3 Manchester, the Australian Pro Championship, picked up the win there, so she's got the big points there. She comes to a race like Auckland, picks big points there. That's a qualification for Vegas, no?
Yeah, it's pretty close. I think it was Amanda a P750 race, P1500 here. It will definitely take a lot of pressure off her shoulders, and she can then go back, you know, you're talking end of January, she can go back, reassess her season and gear everything again towards peaking, you know, for Vegas World Championships.
And a name I'm pretty excited to watch, we saw her do great things in Canberra recently, Annabelle Luxford, you know, a very fast swimmer, and along with Liz Blatchford, could cause a fair bit of damage in that very, very circuitous swim that we're going to see in Auckland. Yeah,
you know, Annabelle's stepped back into the game. She's sort of been a bit MIA for the past few years. She definitely showed racing for Triathlon Australia on the ITU circuit for years, just how much of an exceptional athlete she is. Put her together with Liz Blatchford. She's British, she's Australian, we'll claim her as Australian for this race.
Australian.
These two girls have come from ITU, but the way they used to race ITU was, you know, on the front and driving the pace. So these two girls can get together out of the water, and they will be out front out of the water. These girls can legitimately swim, and they can legitimately swim a hell of a lot better than some of the other girls. You talk Caroline Steffen, you know, and the likes of Michelle Wu, Kate Baker and a few others, and even, you know, these two girls, Liz and Annabelle, are going to want to swim that fast, mainly to put the big deficit between themselves and Mel, because they all know how well or how dangerous Mel is, not only on the bike but her exceptional run.
Well, that's it. I mean, the tactic has to be for these girls, and not just for Blatchford and Luxford, but for the likes of Kessler and Steffen. They've got to put room between them and Holtshield if they're any chance to hold her off.
Yeah, I think so, and I think, you know, also looking at it, you talk these two girls, and if Caroline and Meredith, and remember early in the year at Ironman, one of the US most prestigious races, Meredith actually topped Mel there. Mel caught her on the run, and then Meredith dug deep within the last 2 or 3 kilometres and actually ran away with the victory from Mel. So it shows if you put her under pressure, you know, anything can happen, and these girls could run away with the race. From the flip side of thing as well, mentally, if these 4 girls get together at some stage during the bike, and we all know that riding in a legitimate pace line, 10 metres apart, but mentally riding with other athletes in sight is a lot easier than doing it solo. If they get to a turnaround and Mel sees 4 girls riding 10 metres apart, and she's, you know, hauling ass to try and do or bridge the gap by herself, mentally that's got to be fatiguing the body as well.
The one girl that I think may actually help Mel Holtshield and could actually be an ally for Mel Holtshield is Kat Baker. Now, Kat Baker is essentially not the fastest swimmer. She's not a front pack swimmer like your Blatchfords and Luxfords, but wow, a weapon on the bike. Look.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, she's an absolute weapon on the bike, and you know, it's these things that you got to look at. And I think going into the race, Mel would know the girl's strengths and weaknesses, and she'd know, you know, what's going to be done. But if Kat and Mel get out of the water within, you know, a ballpark of each other, then absolutely they're going to get together and try and rip as much time out of the other girls as possible. And I think, you know, whether they can bridge that, like realistically, you're probably going to be looking at 3 minutes. I think that deficit will be the Annabelles and the Liz's are going to swim 23 mids to 24 minutes in a good solid 2 kilometre swim or 1900 metre swim. So to be able to bridge the 3 minutes, it's highly unlikely. But if they can decrease the deficit and get off within range, then it's like, as you said, it's going to come down to the run. And we've all seen that all these girls, Liz and Annabelle have come from ITU. They've got absolute leg speed. Mel, we know Mel's pedigree. Meredith, we know Meredith, she's won that race. She does run, she's ran low 120s. And she, from knowing her as well, Meredith, she's one determined little cookie, and she can dig herself a hole. The amount of times she's ended up in the back of an ambulance in an Ironman event has got to be a record within itself. So she's going to do everything within her power to hang on as well. Then you talk the Kat Bakers, Michelle Woos, and this is an opportunity for them as well to be able to mix it with these other international girls and put their hands up and say, hey, I'm here, I'm a contender, and you need to worry about me as well.
Interesting you meant, we've been talking Blatchford and we've been talking Luxford and we've been talking their ability on as ITU backgrounded athletes. One thing that I think will actually play into their favour as well is the fact that once you get out onto the bike, there's it's very circuitous getting out of town onto the freeway, and likewise when you're going to the southern laps, same again, the stuff in town is very circuitous. They're used to racing in big cities, used to racing in technical bike courses. Another thing that's going to play into their hands, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. That first part of the race, it will play into their hands, and you think about the old method of out of sight, out of mind, and with a tight technical course, they're always going to be around the corner, so no one's going to know exactly how far up the road they are, if they are up the road, until they get to the bridge and out onto the open freeway. But then once you move out onto that open freeway, you're throwing the likes of Caroline Steffen. We know she's, she's a 6-stroke motorcycle when she gets going, and if she puts it into V8 mode, then she's going to want to. She knows within herself that she's probably going to have to get off the bike in front of the other girls as well. She's a great runner, she's a strong runner, but she's not necessarily as fast as the other 2 girls we've talked about. So she's going to want to open up that bike line and give it as much as she possibly can as well, to give herself not a big buffer, but enough of a buffer that she knows, okay, it's game on, come run.
Of course, and a few other names to mention that'll be racing: Dana Wagner, Rebecca Hosky, we've mentioned Kat Baker, Anna Cleaver, Kiwi, who's had an impressive finish to the back end of the US season last year. But the name you mentioned earlier was Meredith Kessler, and aside from a brilliant season in 2012, a Purple Patch teammate of yours, she had a great race last year coming over to do Ironman New Zealand. It was cut down to the 70.3 distance, but it didn't affect it.
No, not at all, and I think that shows, Meredith is a smart cookie. And she's always been very level-headed and gone about racing and dealing with the situation that's thrown to her. A fact that a lot of people may not know is she doesn't do much riding outside at all. She loves a Vela trainer. You may see on all the tweets that she does a lot of indoor training sessions. She does a lot of indoor training sessions. But shows that she gets strength from it, and she can race well from it. San Francisco girl, she's going to be used to the cold water. The water in that bay is freezing, and I'm tipping Auckland's going to be not much warmer. Bring her out here, she's used to the wind. If it's windy, San Francisco is pretty windy. Hilly terrain, she's got the hills up there as well. She is my absolute dark horse to maybe run away with this race. We've talked all the big names, the Blatchfords, Mel, Annabelle, and I think Meredith will be the one. The girls may take it a little bit for granted that she's coming out of the US season and a bit of a downtime, but I'm sure Meredith would be making the trip from the US to Auckland or to New Zealand unless she's going to be fit and raring to go come race day. It's a long way to go to come and roll around a race.
Well, Luke's tipping Kessler. I'm going to stick with Liz Blatchford. I think she was desperately unlucky not to win the Australian Pro Championship over there in Mandurah, where she only just got rolled by Mel Holshield at the end. Mel Holshield, there's another name for you too. It's going to be a cracking race, Luke, over in Auckland for Ironman 70.3 Auckland, the Asia Pacific Championship next week. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to watching your race and the men's race. But this has been the women's preview for Ironman 70.3 Auckland, and we'll join you from Auckland next time we see you.